You know, it's the most human part of us, that is operating from the perceptual reality, a projected perceptual reality, the ego. And so the mind, for let's put it simply, part of the mind activity is there's an ego present. We know it's present because it's something that's doing all of this thinking and judging and whatnot, even though scientifically they can't like pinpoint like the ego. So we know it's there though. So consciousness,
Mm.
based off of your level of consciousness, reality will appear in different ways. And so if I'm at the level of consciousness of judgment, which represents guilt and shame, then for me, reality, everything appears to be a threat. And I have to take hard stances and I have to constantly judge other people because that's the level of consciousness that I operate on. So these are the tools that are available to me at that level of consciousness. what, you, what you laughing at, man? Talk to me.
You already know my goof levels is always high, man. Cause I'm nah, man. I'm I'm laughing at you, man. Keep flowing, keep flowing. I mean, I just hope people picking up what you're putting down, man. Cause I mean, it's a lot to understand when these words are being spoken like this, man. It's spoken word time, man. Nah, man. Like this is nah. This is healthy, man. This is spiritual stakes for real.
Hey, all day, no Similac, no. I
Yeah.
notice I've been trying to lay in some Similac every now and again, but this is just where I'm at. And then tomorrow, I'll be further than where I am today. Hopefully, that's my desire to be further along, you know. But for today, this is the plate that I'm looking at. So I got to serve it how I see it, and this is how I see it, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, what's on your mind? What you've been pondering. You know what I'm saying? What you've been thinking about?
Man, what I'm pondering, man. I'm just uh I'm just trying to make sure everything is copacetic, man, and from every angle, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, you dig, occupationally, got to work. But just making sure, man, that I'm taking care of myself. Man, it's about longevity. It's about longevity. But as you can see, man, the title or the headline, what they call it on StreamYard is, for the three. Well, oh yeah, for sure,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kaleidoscope
Oh, Father Three.
conversation.
My bad. That's the
Yeah, no,
okay.
no,
Your headline, Father Three. There we
yeah,
go.
yeah. My personal headline. I'm about to
Okay.
say, man, like trying to take care of these children. You dig, and you know, new marriages have been formed. You dig, so it's just a lot on my plate. I mean, as far as what I'm pondering on, man, just getting better from every aspect, and we used to have that quote we used to toss around: "A rising tide raises all ships." And I mean, it's a new year, but that's still the goal every year is to, what I mean, like get as high as I possibly can, just performing at my best, and everybody around me kind of like pulling them to that next level as well. Iron sharpens iron. And that's why I like to delve into these conversations with you. It's always some higher thoughts. It's always another way I could be looking at things. You know what I mean? Because the information that we share with each other, it really is a tool sharpener. The main tool being the mind. There you go from eye level to sky level, and that's
There you go.
that's, that's where it's at, man.
Yeah.
That's what life is to be lived. If you want to experience life in a real elevated way. I mean, man.
In a real empowered way, in a real truthful way, in a real liberating way, like in a
Yeah,
real authentic way,
authentic.
you know, like it's really that the lower our level of consciousness or awareness, the less we are connected to our true self. And so we fall victim to the false self, which is energized by fear. Ego take over, then we experiencing these lower emotions, because we're constantly pushing or pulling. We push away, and again, whatever we persist, or whatever we resist, rather, persist, and we pull towards us. And by pulling towards us, we ensure that we push it away at the same time. Life is paradox. So you got to
Mm.
go with the flow. It's Wu Wei. Now, this new year, new moments, new choices, new intentional decisions,
Yeah.
because decision or indecision in of itself is a decision. Even
Fact.
indecision is a decision. You've
Fact.
decided not to decide. And with that indecision, you've chosen not to move forward or progress, you know? And so that intentional choice, be it uh, in the personal or unconscious, a self-sabotage move that you may not be conscious of, when you bring light to those parts, you realize that you've chosen not to choose. And in doing so, you've ensured that you repeat the same level.
Mm.
And so now you're asking for a reenactment of what you done already experienced and don't want to see no more of, because you're running from it instead of leaning into it. Freedom exists on the other side of your fears. Your fears have no idea how strong you are. But when we run from it, the mirage, false evidence appearing real, the mirage thickens. It becomes more real for us, even scarier. And so we run even further and further and further, smack dab into the same experience. Because the whole time we're running based off of what it is that we are focused on. And so we're intentionally responding to that. And so if I'm gonna pour all this energy into this concept of fear that I've created by my own choice, I've made it real. Because why would I intentionally respond to something that is not real? So my intentional response makes it real for me.
Mm.
That's why faith is so
Yeah.
important in that space, though, because faith is the substance of things hoped for, and it's the evidence of things unseen. This mind is only locked into the physical, like the ego mind anyway, is locked into the physical. So what it sees is what it sees. But if I want to have a, let's say, a lot of people New Year's they start to go to gyms again. If I want to have a six pack, like I have to intentionally respond to that choice, and I have to see that me with a six pack before I embark on that journey. So there's a level where you begin to envision, which is the fourth step of the lit effect, actually, envisioning. So where there's no vision, the people perish. You got to see it and you got to experience it. Allow yourself to be there and experience it before it really manifests in your life. How else does life know what your choice is? That's your choice. What you are sincerely responding to is your choice. So if we sincerely respond to fear, then that's the reality we're choosing. And from
Mm.
that reality comes a whole host of choices based on our level of consciousness and a whole lot of different manifestations of that fear. But we're dealing with the same thing, you see, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. So many people, if the fear is involved with interpersonal relationships, they'll try to switch faces, not realizing that you can switch faces, but not switch energies, not switch frequencies.
Mm.
Whatever frequency you on is whatever frequency you on, no matter what faces you surround yourself with. And like attracts like. And so whatever we need to heal, it's going to re-enter our vortex again and again and again until we choose to lean into that. That's why Khalil says pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. It's the bitter potion by which the doctor within heals your sick self. So drink the potion in peace and tranquility. He says that because we need that truth. That truth wipes away the lies or the non-truth that sat on top of truth. That truth, we realized that this thing that we feared wasn't nothing for us to fear. Like the only thing we had to fear essentially was fear itself. Because that
Mm.
fear that we embodied and responded to on a physiological level, we felt it. On an emotional level, we felt it, and then we responded. And so, on a behavioral level, we were influenced by the fear. When you combine thought, word, and deed, you are using maximum manifestation power. And so, when I entertain fear in thought and I speak fear rooted thoughts, and then I respond to my fear behaviorally, and I feel it physiologically, which means I'm experiencing the experience before I experience it. That's the choice that I've made with life. And so then life, then with no judgment, allows us to experience our choice.
Mm. Gave him the cheat code. Come on, man. Come on. Yeah,
The
yeah.
cheat code, you know, left, right, up, down, A, B.
Exactly. A B. Yeah.
But eventually you got to choose right. That's gonna be the last one. You got to choose right, you
Choose
know,
right.
which is
Choose right.
choosing truth. And you only get through truth if you, for a second, allow yourself to suspend your positionalities,
Hmm.
suspend your perspective, let go of this thought of you being a person or personhood and all the aspects of personhood, the me and my's
Closed
and
minded.
mine. Yeah, you let go of all of that because that those positionalities represent the substance of your judgments. When you remove the judgment out of the equation, now you can see with clarity because we don't have the eyes, or these eyes aren't the eyes that truly sees truth. It has no concept of truth. So it creates a right based off of what makes sense to it and calls it truth. Carl Jung, he said, which is a psychoanalyst, famous psychoanalyst at psychotherapy. Him and Freud were the two, founders, like or vanguards of psychotherapy. But Freud says the pendulum of the mind swings not before right and wrong, but sense and nonsense. You telling me what's wrong about what I did. I'm telling you what's wrong about what you did. When all you're doing is choosing what's right based off of what makes sense to you, and it just means that what makes sense to you don't make sense to me. And so I'm looking at what makes sense to you as nonsense. You're looking at what makes sense to me as nonsense as well, not realizing that we're having two different perspectives on this same situation based off of 95% of the projections from our conditioning we project onto these situations. And then that makes sense because the mind tries to make a coherence out of our story and our life experience. So it has to connect, or it chooses to connect things from dots from the past, which those dots oftentimes are distorted dots.
Mm.
And so through distortion, it filters in to the current equation and then decides that this is what it is based off of wrongful thinking from the gate. And so all it is a it's really the vanity of the mind, these judgments, because all it seek to do is prove itself right or superior, which is why it feels that it has to buckle down and defend these positionalities. Because you're not going to tell me that my reality is wrong. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about you being you and being connected to you. It's about connection. So if you intentionally respond to falsehood, then you're giving more energy to that. It becomes more real for you. And so when I speak truth, you can't even recognize it. It sounds like I'm speaking hieroglyphics
Mm.
because you've been living in distorted reality for so long, a non-truth, and vice versa. You know, what's your thoughts, man? Because you looking deep over there. You,
Yeah, man. Listen, I'm listening in, man.
you
I'm
tuned in,
tapped,
huh?
yeah, man. Tapped in, tuned in, man.
Hey,
Look, all I'm saying is we need to align our actions with our highest intentions. That's all I'm gonna toss up in there.
that's it.
That's what you gotta do every
Our
day.
highest, but you got to break down the highest intentions. So the highest intentions coming from the highest self. So that means you
Yeah,
got to plug into your highest self so
yeah.
that you can get clarity, which is the second step after you accept of the lit effect. Get clarity on who your higher self is and what your true higher intentions are, because the mind has no basis for or no basis for really understanding truth, which is why we're easily fooled by other people in the way that they appear. The mind focuses on the physical. So if I appear a certain kind of way, if I dress up like a police officer and went knocked on your door and had one of them phony badges but looked real, you're gonna think that I'm a police officer, more than likely. I mean, counterfeit money. They had to figure out a way to figure out what money was counterfeit or not. Why? Because it looks so much like the real thing. Something that's a faulty dollar, they wouldn't base it based off of something that's non-real, because it doesn't exist. It's not real. So fake money uses the real money as its model to mimic, but it's not the authentic. It's a duplication. So, people can imitate, they can duplicate, but they can't authenticate. Only time you authenticate it is when you tapped in, and so anybody who's authenticated, in the space of authentication, connected with the self, the true self, they can see through appearance into the essence, because that's what spirit sees. Spirit sees essence, the ego sees appearance.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just saying, man.
You just saying, huh?
I told you them sinuses was acting up too.
Yeah.
I don't want to be talking out my nose the whole time, but nah, but I'm listening in, man. Shit,
All right,
listen
make sure
in.
you're there. Let me make
Yeah.
sure you're there,
Hey, man, I'm present, man. I can feel
Okay.
my feet right now. I'm present, grounded.
So what's the summary of the topics we didn't talk about today for Kaleidoscope Conversations, a family gathering on diverse topics, number 2?
Man. He said, what's the summary, huh? What's the synopsis?
Yeah.
Man. Man, let go of that ego. You feel me? You feel me? And solve them doubts.
Hey,
Solve them doubts. Intentionality reflects relationship. We got to toss that in there.
got to.
Um,
Got to.
I mean, thought, word, and deed. Thought, word, and deed.
Watch your
That's
thought, word, and deed.
yeah, yeah,
You got to line them up, you know. Gandhi said happiness is when what we say, do, and think are in harmony. We can line them things up, because when you do that, you're moving in purpose. And so, on a basic level, on a, I guess, scientific level, spirituality is just the search for meaning and purpose from a scientific level. But to find meaning and purpose, you got to be plugged in to some parts of the true self.
yeah,
And it's through you doing as much as you can, living in purpose as much as you can, based off what you know on whatever level of consciousness you're at, that it gives you access to more and more, because you're feeding that now. You're intentionally responding to that. And so through thought, word, and deed, life understands your choice and honors your choice by giving you more truth. If that's what you keep on choosing, why would life deny you? And so you keep on choosing more truth, and that fades away, because you don't want all the truth at one time, because honestly, we're not ready for all the truth,
yeah, yeah,
until we're ready. But most of us aren't ready. We can tell by just the way civilization is right now, the way society is right now, how we think, how we speak, the shows that are put on, the way that social media operates. I mean, all you hear is judgments after judgment after judgment. The ego saying that my way is right. That's it. Vanity. There are objective truths, but objective truths are just a shadow of spiritual truth.